Some people don't realize what they have until it's gone. In this story, a family treated their stepdaughter like a live-in maid for years. She cooked every meal, cleaned every room, raised their kids while they sat on the couch and complained about how tired they were. They called her lazy, stupid, not college material. And then one night, she vanished. No note, no goodbye, no forwarding address. The family woke up to a house they didn't know how to run, bills they didn't know existed, a life that was about to collapse. And somewhere across the country in a university dorm room, their former maid was finally free. They say you don't know what you've got till it's gone. But some people, they don't deserve to keep it in the first place. Welcome to another deep dive. I'm your host, and tonight we're examining the story of the invisible Cinderella, the girl they thought they owned who planned her escape for years and executed it perfectly. Settle in. This one's a saga.
So let me just start by saying, I know how this sounds. Poor little Cinderella, right? Woe is me. But I promise you, I'm not exaggerating. If anything, I'm leaving stuff out because some of it is almost too pathetic to admit. I'm 19 now. I've been out for almost a year. And I still have moments where I wake up in a panic at 5 a.m. thinking I forgot to start the laundry. That's what they did to me. Let me give you the backstory. My mom passed away when I was 12. Cancer. It was awful and slow, and I basically watched her disappear over 2 years. My dad, he didn't handle it well. He shut down. Stopped talking to me. Started working late. And then about 18 months after she died, he started dating Linda. Linda had 2 kids from her previous marriage. Bryce and Madison. Bryce was a year older than me, Madison was 2 years younger. At first, Linda was nice. Like, almost suspiciously nice. She'd compliment my hair. Tell my dad what a sweet girl I was. Make comments about how we were going to be one big happy family. And I wanted to believe it. I was 14 and I missed my mom and I just wanted things to feel normal again. But the second that ring went on Linda's finger, everything changed. It started small. Honey, can you help Madison with her room? She's having trouble organizing. Then it was, your father and I are exhausted from work, can you just throw dinner together tonight? And then tonight became every night. By the time I was 16, this was my daily routine. Wake up at 5:30 a.m. Start laundry. Make breakfast for everyone, and I mean everyone. Bryce wanted eggs over easy. Madison wanted pancakes. Linda wanted egg whites and fruit. Dad just wanted coffee, but God forbid it wasn't ready when he came downstairs. Then I'd clean up breakfast, finish the laundry, fold it, put it away in their rooms, because apparently walking clothes to their own closets was too much for my step-siblings. I'd go to school. Come home. Start dinner. Clean up dinner. Help Madison with her homework, because she didn't understand anything, which really meant she didn't try to understand anything. Then I'd clean the bathrooms. Vacuum. Take out the trash. Meal prep for the next day. I'd finally get to my own homework around 10 p.m. Sometimes later. Meanwhile, Bryce and Madison? Bryce played video games. That was his whole personality. Video games and complaining about how bored he was. He was 17 and didn't know how to boil water. I'm not joking. I once watched him try to make ramen in a dry pot. No water. Just noodles in a pot on the stove. The smoke alarm went off and somehow that was my fault too. Madison was worse in a different way. She was the princess. Linda treated her like she was made of glass. Madison didn't have chores. Madison didn't have responsibilities. Madison got a car on her 16th birthday. You know what I got on my 16th birthday? I wish I was kidding. Linda said, the old one was getting worn out, so consider this your gift. And my dad just sat there. Said nothing. Like always. That was the thing that hurt the most, honestly. The stepfamily being awful? Whatever. They weren't my blood. But my dad? My actual father? He just checked out. He went to work, came home, sat in his recliner, watched TV, and acted like I didn't exist unless something wasn't done. Why isn't there any milk? Did you forget to pay the electric bill? The lawn looks rough. Yeah, Dad. I'm 16. I'm also doing your wife's laundry, cooking your meals, and somehow maintaining a 3.8 GPA despite never having time to study. But sure, let me add landscaping to the list. Here's what really messed with my head. I started to believe them. Linda would make these little comments. You're just not really college material, sweetie. Some people are meant for academics, some aren't. And she'd look at Madison all proud, even though Madison had a 2.1 GPA and thought Africa was a country. My dad would say things like, don't worry about your future too much. You'll figure something out. Which sounds nice, except it was code for, we're not going to help you and we don't expect you to succeed. Bryce straight up called me the maid. To my face. To his friends. I remember one time he had his buddies over and one of them asked who I was. Bryce laughed and said, oh, that's just the help. Don't worry about her. And I stood there holding a tray of snacks I'd made for them, and I just took it. Because what was I supposed to do? That was my life for 4 years. 4 years of being invisible. 4 years of doing everything while they did nothing. 4 years of being told I was worthless while I literally kept their household running. But here's the thing about being invisible. Nobody notices when you start planning. The turning point came on a random Tuesday in March. I was 17. It wasn't some dramatic moment. Linda didn't hit me. Nobody screamed at me. It was actually weirdly quiet. I was folding Bryce's laundry, and let me tell you, that boy's socks could be classified as biological weapons, and I just stopped. I looked at the pile of his clothes. Then I looked at my hands. Then I looked at the clock, 11:47 p.m., and I thought, what the hell am I doing? Like, actually, what was I doing? I was 3 months from turning 18. I had a 3.8 GPA that nobody knew about because nobody asked. I was smart. I knew I was smart. And I was spending my life folding the underwear of a kid who thought the microwave was too complicated. That night, I didn't finish the laundry. I left it in a pile and I went to my room and I sat on my bed and I made a decision. I was getting out. And I was going to do it right. See, the thing about being treated like you're invisible is that people stop watching you. They assume you're going to stay in your lane forever. They don't consider that you might have plans. So I started making plans. First thing I did was research colleges. Faraway colleges. I'm talking opposite coast of the country far. I wanted at least 2,000 miles between me and this house. I found schools with good financial aid programs, schools that gave scholarships for essays instead of just GPAs, schools that nobody in my family had ever heard of. I spent hours on those websites. Always late at night. Always after everyone else was asleep. The applications were tricky. They cost money I didn't have. But some schools waive the fees if you're low income, and technically, I had no income. So I applied for waivers. Filled out the FAFSA using my dad's tax info that I had access to because, oh yeah, I did the family's taxes. Thanks for teaching me where all the financial documents were, Linda. Really appreciate that. I applied to 7 schools. All out of state. All with strong scholarship programs. All without telling a single soul. The hardest part was the recommendation letters. I couldn't exactly ask my family for those. But I had a teacher, Mrs. Patterson, AP English, who actually saw me. Saw me. She'd noticed that I was always tired. That my homework was always done but I looked like I hadn't slept. She asked me once if everything was okay at home, and I gave her some generic answer, but I think she knew. When I asked her for a recommendation letter, I told her the truth. I said I was applying to colleges in secret because my family didn't think I was college material and I needed to get out. She wrote me the most beautiful letter. I still have it. The acceptances started coming in February of my senior year. I got into 5 of the 7 schools. 2 of them offered me significant scholarships. One of them, the one I ended up choosing, offered me a full ride. Full tuition. Room and board. Books. Everything. When I opened that email, I was sitting on the bathroom floor at 2 a.m. because it was the only room with a lock. And I just started crying. Silently, because I couldn't wake anyone up, but still. Full-on sobbing. I had a way out. But I couldn't leave yet. I had to graduate first. And I had to make sure that when I left clean. So for the next 4 months, I planned my escape like I was running a military operation. Step 1, gather documents. Birth certificate. Social security card. Passport, which I got by saying it was for a school trip that didn't exist. Immunization records. High school transcripts. I kept everything in a folder, hidden in a box of old school supplies that nobody ever touched. Linda thought it was full of failed tests and broken pencils. It was actually my entire identity. Step 2, open a bank account. Did you know that at 17, you can open a bank account without a parent's signature in some states if you're an emancipated minor or working? I wasn't emancipated, but I was working. Sort of. I babysat for neighbors. I tutored a kid down the street in math. I did small odd jobs for cash. Everything went into that account. $20 here. $50 there. It wasn't much, but it added up. By the time I left, I had $1,847.32. Step 3, the bug-out bag. I bought a duffel bag at Goodwill for $4. Hid it under my bed. Over the months, I slowly filled it with clothes, toiletries, my important documents, a cheap prepaid phone I bought with cash, and a few things that belonged to my mom, her watch, a necklace, a photo of us from before she got sick. I left everything else. Everything they'd ever given me, which wasn't much, stayed behind. I didn't want anything that tied me to that house. Step 4, the exit strategy. Graduation was June 15th. I had to attend, couldn't let anyone get suspicious. My dorm move-in was August 20th. That gave me about 2 months to figure out where to go in between. I reached out to an aunt on my mom's side. Aunt Carol. She'd always been kind of distant from the family drama, lived in another state and mostly just sent birthday cards. But I took a chance. I told her everything. She called me 2 days later, crying, and said I could stay with her for the entire summer. So now I had a destination. All I had to do was wait. And not give myself away. Those last few months were torture. Every time Linda made a snide comment, I had to bite my tongue. Every time Bryce left his dishes for me, I had to smile and do them. Every time my dad ignored me, I had to pretend it didn't matter. But inside? Inside I was counting down the days. I picked my exit date carefully. June 18th. 3 days after graduation. A Sunday night. My dad and Linda had a dinner party to attend. Bryce was staying at a friend's house. Madison was sleeping over at some girl's place. The house would be empty until at least midnight. I would be on a bus by 8 p.m. And no one would know until morning. June 18th. I'd been waiting for this day for 487 days. Not that I was counting. I was definitely counting. The afternoon dragged. I did my normal routine, cleaned the kitchen, folded laundry, made sure everything looked perfect. Part of me wanted to leave the house a mess, but I knew that would raise suspicions. Better to make everything look normal. At 5 p.m., Linda came downstairs in some fancy dress and told me, didn't ask, told me that I'd need to clean the guest bathroom because they might have people over later in the week. Sure, I said. No problem. She didn't even look at me as she walked out the door. By 6 p.m., the house was empty. I stood in the middle of the living room for a minute, just listening to the silence. Then I went upstairs and grabbed my bag. I walked through the house one more time. Not for sentimental reasons, more like a final inspection. I wanted to make sure I wasn't forgetting anything that was actually mine. My room was basically a cell anyway. Small bed. Old desk. A closet full of hand-me-downs from Madison that didn't fit. Nothing on the walls because Linda said decorations collected dust. There was nothing here for me. There never had been. I grabbed the photo of my mom from my dresser, slipped it into my bag, and walked out. I didn't lock the door behind me. That felt symbolic somehow. Like, you don't even get the satisfaction of keeping me out. I'm just gone. The bus station was a 40-minute walk. I'd timed it. I'd practiced the route. I knew exactly which streets to take to avoid anyone who might recognize me. The whole walk, I kept waiting for something to go wrong. A car pulling up. My phone ringing. Someone yelling my name. But nothing happened. The neighborhood was quiet. The sun was setting. And I just walked. When I got to the bus station, I bought my ticket with cash. The lady at the counter didn't even look at me. I was just another traveler. The bus to Aunt Carol's was an 11-hour ride. I found a seat near the back, put my bag on my lap, and waited. At 8:17 p.m., the bus pulled out of the station. I watched my city disappear through the window. The streets I'd walked. The stores I'd shopped at. The life I was leaving behind. And I felt nothing. No sadness. No regret. Just this overwhelming sense of relief. I slept most of the ride. When I woke up, we were in a completely different state. The sun was coming up. And my phone, the old one, not the prepaid, was going crazy. 23 missed calls. 47 text messages. I didn't read a single one. I just turned it off. When the bus finally stopped and I saw Aunt Carol waiting for me in the parking lot, I lost it. She just opened her arms and I collapsed into them and cried for like 10 minutes straight. She didn't say anything. She just held me. And when I finally stopped crying, she said, "Let's get you home." Home. Someone was calling a place home for me. That was the first time I'd heard that word mean something real in years. Meanwhile, back at the house. From what I pieced together later, here's what happened. Linda and my dad got home around 12:30 a.m. They didn't notice anything wrong at first because why would they? I was always either in my room or cleaning something. They went to bed. Morning came. Linda came downstairs expecting breakfast to be ready. The kitchen was spotless. But also empty. No eggs. No coffee. No me. She checked my room. Empty. Bed made. Closet cleared out. No note. She woke up my dad. They searched the house. Nothing. That's when the panic started. At first they thought something bad had happened. They called the police. Reported me missing. There was apparently a whole thing. Officers came to the house, took statements, looked through my room. But here's the beautiful part, I was 18. Legally an adult. I'd left voluntarily. Taken my stuff. Cleared out my accounts. The police basically said, she's an adult. She left. That's not a crime. Linda was furious. Not worried. Furious. Because how dare I inconvenience her like this? She tried calling me approximately 800 times that first week. All blocked. She tried emailing. Blocked. She tried finding me on social media. I'd deactivated everything. I was a ghost. And then the real chaos started. See, here's the thing they never understood. I didn't just do chores. I ran that household. I knew where everything was. I paid the bills. I scheduled the appointments. I kept track of what food was in the fridge and what needed to be bought. Without me, they had nothing. The updates came from Aunt Carol's neighbor, who was still connected to some family friends back home. And honestly, it was better than any TV show. Week 1, nobody knew how to cook. Linda apparently tried to make spaghetti and somehow set off the smoke alarm. Madison microwaved something with metal in it and almost started a fire. Bryce ordered DoorDash for every single meal until Linda screamed at him about the credit card bill. Week 2, the laundry situation. Bryce ran out of clean clothes. Instead of doing laundry, he just started wearing dirty stuff. Madison threw a tantrum because her favorite jeans weren't clean. Linda tried to do a load and put dish soap in the washing machine. I heard there were bubbles everywhere. Like, everywhere. Coming out of the laundry room into the hallway. They had to call a repairman. Week 3, the bills. Nobody knew what was due when. The electric bill was late because I always paid it on the 15th and nobody realized that was even a thing. The internet got shut off for non-payment. Linda had to call the company and apologize and pay a reconnection fee. Can you imagine? Madison without internet? I heard she had an actual breakdown. Week 4, the extended family got involved. This was when the guilt trip started. Linda apparently called every relative she could think of, trying to track me down. She painted me as an unstable runaway who had abandoned her family in their time of need. She found my aunt's number, I don't even know how, and actually called her. Aunt Carol answered. Linda demanded to know where I was. Aunt Carol said, she's safe. That's all you need to know. Linda said, she needs to come home. We're her family. And Aunt Carol, God bless this woman, said, family doesn't treat people the way you treated her. Lose this number. She hung up. Linda called back 4 times. Aunt Carol blocked her. Meanwhile, the house continued to fall apart. My dad apparently had to start doing his own laundry for the first time in like 15 years. He complained about it constantly. Linda and him started fighting because she was stressed about the house and he wasn't helping enough. Which is hilarious because I was helping enough when I was doing literally everything, but sure, Dad. Now it's too much work. Bryce's grades tanked. He'd been coasting on C's before, but without me to help with household stuff, there was too much chaos for him to focus. He failed 2 classes. Madison missed school 3 days in a row because she didn't have anything to wear. Her GPA dropped to a 1.8. And then came the flying monkeys. Linda recruited a cousin I barely knew to reach out to me on Instagram. I'd made a new account under a different name, but somehow she found it. The message was basically, your family is really struggling without you. Your stepmom has been crying every day. Your dad is worried sick. Don't you think it's time to come home and apologize? Apologize. Apologize. For what? For leaving a house where I was treated like an unpaid servant? For going to college? For having the audacity to pursue a life where I wasn't someone's personal Cinderella? I didn't respond. I just blocked her too. 3 months in, I got another message. Different relative. This one tried a different angle. Think about your father. He's heartbroken. He talks about you all the time. Funny how he never talked about me when I was actually there. Funny how he never once asked about my grades, my friends, my dreams, my life. But now that I'm not around to do his laundry, suddenly he's heartbroken. I didn't respond to that one either. By month 4, the house was in foreclosure territory. Not literally, they didn't lose the house, but they had to refinance because of missed payments. Linda had to pick up extra shifts. My dad had to cancel his golf club membership. Oh, the humanity. Bryce graduated, barely, and immediately moved in with his dad. His actual dad, not mine. Didn't even stay the summer. Madison was failing summer school. Linda was stress-eating and gained like 30 pounds. My dad started sleeping in the guest room because they were fighting so much. All because they lost their free labor. All because they took me for granted. And honestly, I felt nothing. No guilt. No satisfaction. Just peace. It's been almost a year since I left. I'm sitting in my dorm room right now. I have a roommate named Jessica who became my best friend within like 2 weeks. She's one of those people who just radiates kindness. My classes are hard but manageable. I'm majoring in psychology. I figure if I'm going to spend years unpacking my own trauma, I might as well make a career out of helping other people with theirs. I have a 3.7 GPA. I'm on the dean's list. I have friends. Real friends. People who text me to ask if I want to get dinner, not to ask why dinner isn't ready. People who remember my birthday without me having to remind them. I got a job at the campus library. It's quiet. I get to read when it's slow. Nobody yells at me for not working hard enough. I started therapy in October. My therapist is amazing. She specializes in childhood emotional neglect and family trauma. We've been working through a lot of stuff, the parentification, the invisibility, the way I was taught to make myself small. It's hard. Some sessions, I cry the whole time. But it's also the most important thing I've ever done for myself. And the best part? I don't wake up at 5 a.m. in a panic anymore. I don't feel guilty when I watch a movie instead of cleaning. I don't apologize for existing. I'm learning what it feels like to just be a person. A regular person with regular needs who takes up regular space in the world. Now, you're probably wondering, what happened to them? Here's what I know. My dad and Linda are still married, but barely. Aunt Carol has a friend who works with someone at Linda's office, so information trickles back occasionally. They fight constantly. The house is apparently a mess because neither of them wants to clean it. They hired a cleaning service, but it costs money they don't want to spend, so they complain about that too. Yeah. They're paying actual money for what I did for free for 4 years. How's that for poetic justice? Bryce is living with his bio dad and apparently has no plans for college. He's working at a warehouse. I genuinely wish him well, but I also genuinely don't care. Madison dropped out of her first year of community college. She's back home, still expecting to be treated like a princess, still having meltdowns when things don't go her way. And my dad? He tried to contact me once. About 6 months after I left. He sent a letter to Aunt Carol's address because it was the only way he could reach me. I read it. Part of me hoped it would be an apology. Some acknowledgement of what he'd let happen. It wasn't. It was 3 pages of guilt-tripping. He talked about how hard things had been since he left. How Linda was struggling. How he didn't understand why I would do this to them. He never once acknowledged his own behavior. Never once said sorry. Never once admitted that maybe, just maybe, he'd failed me. At the end, he wrote, "When you're ready to apologize and come home, we'll be here." I burned that letter. And I haven't heard from him since. Look, I know some people might think I'm cold for cutting them off completely. That I should try to reconcile, that family is family, that forgiveness is important. And you know what? Maybe one day I'll get there. Maybe one day I'll be able to look at my father and not feel that deep ache of abandonment. Maybe I'll be able to forgive him for choosing her over me, every single time. But that day is not today. And it might not be tomorrow either. Right now, I'm focused on me. On healing. On building a life that I'm proud of. On surrounding myself with people who actually love me, not people who just love what I can do for them. I'm not Cinderella anymore. I'm not waiting for a prince or a fairy godmother or someone else to save me. I saved myself. And that feels better than any glass slipper ever could.
She did everything right. Most people, when they realize they're being exploited, they lash out. They make scenes. They give their abusers ammunition. But not her. She played the long game. She gathered her resources in silence. She smiled and nodded and folded their laundry while building an escape route they never saw coming. And when she finally left, she didn't do it with a bang. She did it with precision. Clean. Surgical. Complete. They called her the maid. The help. Not college material. She's on the dean's list now. She's in therapy healing. She has friends who actually care about her. And them? They're still struggling to figure out how the washing machine works. Some people don't know what they have until it's gone. And some people? They never deserved it in the first place. To everyone out there living in a house where your work is invisible, where your value is measured only by what you can provide, where you've been told you're not good enough to dream bigger, start planning. You'd be amazed what you can accomplish when nobody's watching. That's all for tonight. I'm your host. This has been another deep dive. Until next time, watch your back, trust your instincts, and never underestimate the quiet ones.